everybody, it's me, Lisa, aka Wolf and Storm, coming at you live with a new review for Doctor Who Flux. Well, we finally made it, my friends, to the end of this god-awful mess. This is going to be my review for Flux Series 13, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Episode 6, The Vanquishers. Season finale. Series finale. Whatever you want to call it. For this series of Doctor Who. And the last full-fledged series that Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall will ever be involved in. Thank Jesus. Yes, my friends. We have 4. We have some specials coming up in the new year. We have the Christmas. Wish it was Christmas, but it is not. New Year's Day special. The Eve of the Daleks. That title dropped right after the episode was over. That will be New Year's Day. Then we have another special in Easter, and then the Centenary special in October. And I'm assuming another New Year's Day special, which will likely be the Regeneration. And that will be it for Jodie and Chibs. Their filming is complete, so she is officially done, even though the episodes themselves have not aired. Won't until the coming year. She is done. Thank Jesus. So we only have to suffer through a few more before Russell comes and saves us all. All right, so before we get started, the usual housekeeping applies. Please help me keep on keeping on with this lovely channel by hitting me up on social media. Those links will be in the description. And by the way, if you want to keep getting these nifty, neato videos, please like, share, subscribe, hit that button, smash that bell. Help me keep on keeping on to bring you these nifty, neato videos. We just some really quick David Tennant news for Around the World in 80 Days. It has officially premiered in France. They were lucky enough to get the earliest. So I have a couple of French friends on Doctor Who David Tennant fan friends online who have already started posting a couple spoilers here and there. It's just some pictures, really. Nothing concrete about what actually happens. So very excited. The UK premiere will be Boxing Day, December 26th. That will be the first episode, and it will continue from there weekly. And of course, you all know that the US premiere will be on PBS January 2nd. First episode will drop, and we'll continue from there weekly as well. I do know that in Germany, it will be towards the end of December. The only ones we don't know are the premiere dates for Italy and Belgium, although I'm assuming that's very early in the new year as well. So as soon as I get the chance to watch that in January, or maybe I'll have my ways and catch it quicker. Who knows? It depends, because since it's premiering in other countries, it's probably going to be in different languages. So it'll be easier for me to wait until the Boxing Day premiere in the UK. So it'll actually be English. So maybe I will catch you guys up on that a little bit early. Who knows? But we will definitely have a review on that as the episodes come. I have not yet had the chance to sit down and listen to the third Ninth Doctor Ventures box set. I have a job and I've been busy working, and when I come home from work, I'm so tired that a lot of times it's enough for me to just change out of my clothes and lay down and try to watch some TV without falling asleep. And then of course I have 2 teenagers, so I have to deal with them too. So whatever time I do get off is kind of precious to me. Like right now, I'm trying to get this video out because I have other things to do, so I'm doing it early in the morning to get it done. I would have done it yesterday, but I had some other things to do that didn't allow me the time, so now I'm getting it done because I have to work tomorrow. So this is the best time for me. Anyway, yeah, I will be sitting down when I have the chance, sooner rather than later, to listen to those 3 stories, and I will give you that review ASAP. I would like to get that review out before Around the World in 80 Days, because I don't want to have to throw out a huge video with all the reviews at once. I don't like doing it. It's too much for me to remember. 3 stories plus the first episode of Around the World. Too much for the brain. I want to separate them. It's easier. So I will have that out as soon as possible. Again, please don't forget that there is... Comixology has come out with Empire of the Wolf, so please do, if you have the opportunity. I put that link to the Comixology website in my last video. If you have the opportunity, please go on there, get yourself a digital copy or order a physical one if you can. I originally said in the last video that there was 3 comics to the series. I was incorrect. When I went back on Comixology to check up on my release dates, I realized there was actually 4. So the last comic in that series will come out in February. So in February, you will get a detailed review of that comic. Like I said before, I don't want to do it piece by piece. I want to do it all at once. So I'm going to wait till each comic comes, read them all, and then give you an all-at-once drop on the whole thing together. Because it's one whole story. I don't like leaving cliffhangers. I would rather have everything all at once. So... just a little amendment to that. And now, on with the show. On with the show, my friends. As it were. What to say about episode 6? It happened. That's about all I can say is it happened. As far as finales go, yeah, it was pretty bad. I have been witness to a great many different Doctor Who finales over the years, both classic and new, and yeah, this was pretty terrible. All things considered, it didn't feel like a finale because nothing was answered. There was no payoffs to anything. All of the shit that Chibnall set up amounted to absolutely nothing. Characters that were thrown in there were woefully underused. And I want to believe that this has more to do with the fact that his episode run was cut while he was filming, and you could tell in the way that these episodes were filmed that 1, it was definitely during a lockdown, and 2, there was a lot of stuff obviously that he wanted to put in but was unable to put in. Because his episode run was cut. It started out at 11 episodes and then went down to 8 and then down to 6. So I have to believe that all these different characters, Vinder, Bell, the Grand Serpent, and all of this shit probably had more development in his brain than what was actually on the paper, and than what he actually had time for. Even if they did have development, well, we all know that Chibnall's never been very good at character development, even when he has an episode run to give them time. Like in the last 2 series, 11 and 12, he had 10 episodes each to give them time, and they still weren't developed. 3 fucking years in, they're still not developed. Yaz is still a plank, and Dan, poor Dan, started out pretty good, and then got kind of relegated to background candy. And butt of the joke, basically. So this episode takes off right where the last one left off. He's been doing a lot of cliffhangers in this particular run, and none of them have had any real payoff. How does she get out? If you remember last week, it ends with Taeyeon being murdered by the Swarm, and then the Swarm walking up to the Doctor and about to put his hand to her face, thinking that she's going to be glitterized and turned into particles. A lot like Endgame. Or snap and dusted. So how does she get out of being glitterized? She takes 2 steps to the left. Ooh, Doctor, we missed you. Darn! We will kill you though, Doctor. Yeah, that was kind of dumb. They're right there. They have the power to literally touch her and turn and dissolve her into nothing, and they just stand there and let her run or move to the side out of their way. Yeah, I'm just gonna step aside so you can't touch me there, and you're just gonna stand there and not do jack shit. So this episode, like the last one, was very frenetic. The tone was crazy. And whoever edited it was even crazier. It went from one place to the next, and the transitions between scenes were not done very well at all. It was hard to determine just how she was split, because at one point it would seem like she wasn't entirely there, that only a part of her was there and you could see through her. But then at other times, she actually was there, and not just her, but more than one of her. So it was hard to figure out exactly what was happening to her. I've listened to quite a few reviews online Sunday night and Monday, and in some cases I think people are overthinking things about characters, and in others I think that their anger is making them miss a few things. So I'm going to try and clear some things up. Not that I wasn't angry, because this whole series is just fucking bunk. I mean, just bunk. Not that Chibnall's run hasn't been bunk already, but anyway. So again, we're separated into three different sections here. We have the doctor, who is split into three, because if you remember, when she first arrives at the division HQ, the Ood gives her that little amulet to wear on her chest that keeps her grounded, like, because she's technically in the void. She's outside of the universe. And when they had to pull her out, it destabilized her body. So that little thing that she wears on her chest keeps her body stable. But she realizes she cannot stay there. She needs to get back to her friends and save the universe and Earth and all that. So she figures that if she takes it off, her body will destabilize and she can somehow get back there. How? Don't know. Convenience logic. I guess. So she pulls it off, and her body immediately begins to destabilize, but she appears in three different places. How her body knows where to go and when, don't know. Convenience logic number 2. So one of her is with Carvanista and Vel on that Lupari ship. The other of her is with Kate and Dan and Yaz and the Williamson guy from the 1820s. And the third one is still at Division HQ with Azure and Swarm. Sorry. But she's unstable, so some of the time her body is corporeal, and other times you can see through her, and she keeps flipping back and forth, but you can't tell if this is within her own consciousness or if her body is physically flipping back and forth. The way that it's edited, it makes it almost impossible to tell. Whoever did this is a terrible editor. So the Sontarans, in a very short order, have completely taken over the planet Earth, and they have set up a base in Chile where they are looking for psychic operatives to tell them when exactly this confluence event where the Flux is going to attack Earth, when this is going to occur. This is, I think, is what Yaz and Dan and Jericho were looking for in the last episode, the exact date of when this big event was going to occur. But the Sontarans are looking for it for a very different reason. And they're looking for humans or anybody really that has psychic ability, because they can somehow use it to tap into whatever. It's not really very well explained. Nothing in this episode is very well explained at all. So they want psychic operatives so that they can figure out when this date is going to occur. In the division part of this story, the Doctor's being tortured by Azure and Swarm, and what Swarm does is Azure they have this conversation about, she doesn't understand why the Doctor loves life so much and loves living and why things need to be alive when she would rather have them all dead. And the conversation is actually a fairly deep one. The only thing is, the writing is... the conversation is well delivered, but the writing is terrible. And I can't ever get past her makeup. It takes me out of her as a character completely. I can't take her seriously. So basically we find out that they're going to let the swarm destroy everything and then use the power of time at their disposal to rewind it and watch it happen again and again and again and again. Which is very much like what the Daleks did in the Time War, using time as a weapon. And also what the Time Lords did in the Time War, using time as a weapon. When their own people were killed and then they would die and then they would resurrect them over and over and over again, to the point where these soldiers were going crazy because they were having visions of their own previous deaths over and over again. Done much better by a much better writer, thanks. God, this whole episode was just filled with stuff that Chibnall ripped off of much better episodes and much better writers and much better showrunners. Jesus. Anyway, so he takes her into her little mindscape where we see that crazy looking black and white house, and we're pretty much able to figure out it's not the Long Barrow house. I don't understand why anybody thought it was. I remembered the book and how the house was described. It didn't look like that at all. This is like her mind palace where all her memories of all of her past lives are. They all live in those separate little rooms. But it's all like freaky deaky and messed up and crazy looking, and maybe that's because some of her memories are missing. I don't know. Don't know. Anyway, Swarm just stands there and he uses his power to make it dissolve into glittery sparkles. And because he's dissolving it, she's dissolving, because those are her memories of her past lives. And if he dissolves her past lives, he dissolves her too. But then he makes it come back, and then back and forth and back and forth. And it basically torture. I don't know what he's hoping to achieve with this other than to watch her suffer. He claims that she was the one that was responsible for him being imprisoned, along with Division, but she don't remember who the hell he is, so it's hard for her to be emotional about it, other than to be in a lot of pain, because she has no memory of him. You see, it's very, this whole thing is very one-sided. She has no memory of these people. She just knows that they're evil and that they're bad. But that's based on what she's seen so far. She has no idea who they are. She has no feeling towards them, about them having, been in prison, because she doesn't know them. It would have been so much easier if her memories had been returned to her beforehand. Would have made everything make much more sense. Anyway, while this is going on, at the same time, she appears in the ship with Carvanista and Bell, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" Blah, blah, blah. And she also appears in the tunnels with Kate and Dan and Yaz and Williamson Guy and Jericho. Basically, they find Kate before the Doctor gets there. And Kate has become the leader of the human resistance against the Centaurans. Not that you would know it, because she does absolutely nothing. She stands in the fucking background the whole time and barely says a word. Other than, "Oh, I really like this regeneration." You hardly know her, Kate. Woefully underused. Absolutely woefully, criminally underused. If you're going to bring back a legacy character like that, give them a fucking purpose. Again, I would like to tie this down to he probably had more in mind for these people and then had no time to finish it because his episode number kept getting cut. Either that or he just has no ability to commit to anything. He didn't commit to anything in this. He gave us no payoff to anything, no answers to any of the timeless child questions. And even though I don't even want to discuss it, no whatever for the Doctor and Yaz. I don't understand why people are wanting the Doctor and Yaz to be a thing. They have zero chemistry together. This whole last series, they've barely been in the same place together more than once for more than a couple of minutes. They've just spent the last 3 years, at least for Yaz, apart. I just don't get it. Like there's no chemistry between them, and every time that they have longing looks or whatever, it just seems so incredibly forced. I know a lot of old-timey fans have said there shouldn't be any hanky-panky in the TARDIS, and I get where they're coming from. But being, as you guys will know, a huge supporter of Rose and the Doctor, I had my reasons for supporting them, and that was because it was a well-developed story. The characters were well-developed. The romance, the relationship was incredibly well-developed on screen, and the payoff in the end was earned between them. It wasn't something that just came out of nowhere or felt forced. And Rose was a great many things, but she was never a fucking plank. Rose Tyler was, well, she's Rose. So, I mean, does it need saying? Like, does anything else really need saying? As 10 would say. No, because that relationship was properly developed and what you felt was real. And it was, even those people, and I am friends with quite a lot of them who never liked romance for the Doctor, and maybe didn't want him and Rose together. They've never once said that the relationship wasn't properly developed and that the payoff wasn't good. They've always said that they let this particular thing go because Russell did it well. And he made sense. It wasn't something that was just thrown in there just because. It was actually something that for that point in his life made absolute sense. It was well developed. The relationship was earned. And it wasn't some bullshit just to check off a box. It was real. And at the time, it was heartbreaking and beautiful and tragic, and I think something that the fandom won't ever forget. So to have whatever with Yaz is just ridiculous because there's nothing between them. Like they've never shown any sort of chemistry, any development, nothing. Like nothing. So to try to force some kind of relationship just to tick off a box, I would think. Now, I'm not a member of the LGBTQ community, but I would like to think that those that want representation would want it done the right way. This is the same thing that happened in Once Upon a Time, in that shipping war between the Captain Swanners and the Swan Queeners. The Captain Swan relationship was well developed from day one. Like the relationship was well developed. The characters were well developed. The chemistry was there, and the relationship was earned. They fought for it for 7 long years. Not 7, 6. 6 long years. They earned that. So in the end, when they got married and they had a child, it was earned. And that love was there. You knew it from the beginning. Whereas with Swan Queen, I can understand that they're wanting representation, but you want it in a way that's hollow because that relationship isn't real. Yes, it's a friendship between 2 women over the fact that they share a son, but it's not the relationship that they're wanting between these women. That chemistry that they claim to be seeing is not there. So even if they were to get something, it would be a very hollow victory because it's not real. It's something, okay, maybe the show did queerbait. I don't know. I didn't see it. But, that's me. I would think that they would rather want a real, honest-to-God, same-sex relationship that is well-developed on screen and that the characters are well-developed and the relationship is earned. not something that's just thrown in there to make somebody happy, like something that's real, you know? Wouldn't that give you more satisfaction, a real victory, not something that's hollow? But anyway, I digress. Sorry. I get a little worked up when it comes to shipping. Anyway, so she's in 3 different places, and she gets the download from Yaz and Dan about what's going on. She recognizes Williamson and his significance building the tunnels, you know, sees Kate, you know, she gets the whole download from them about the Sontarans, and Kate tells her about the base that the Sontarans had built in Chile and the fact that they're looking for psychic operatives. And she says, well, Kate says that they've been trying to send people in undercover to figure out what's going on there, but so far they've not had any success. So the doctor's like, my turn. She's going to send in her own people that she thinks will be successful. And that turns out to be Claire and Jericho. They take the TARDIS and they go to 1967 and they pick up Claire and Jericho. Before this, though, she sends Williamson on his way back home because she said, you've done what you came here to do. I thank you. You did a great job, but it's time for you to go home, back to your place in history where you belong. So, because if something happens to you and you die here, that's not going to be good for, you know, you need to go back. It's all good. We've got this. So she sends him back home through one of his doors. That's actually how Yaz, Dan, and Jericho managed to get home in the first place. One of the doors that was in that place had a sign on it that said 21st century London. Just, you know, convenience. Ding. Convenience. A lot of this stuff in this episode was convenient. So they get back 21st century. They find Kate, who's occupying those same tunnels, and that's how they get the download from her. And the doctor finds him later. So she sends Williamson on his way, and they go into the TARDIS. They collect Claire and Jericho. Now, right there, plot hole. Actually, this whole episode is one massive plot hole. But, yeah, plot hole. We've been told, as far back as Blink itself, that once an angel takes you and throws you back in time, thereby consuming your potential energy, that the doctor cannot save you. That wherever you are, you're stuck. And that's that. Because it's a fixed point. That's the reason why he, in his 11th self, could not go back and get Amy and Rory after they were taken in New York. So how the hell was it that she was able to go back to 1967 and get Claire and Jericho? How in the fuck did Claire and Jericho even... Well, how in the hell did Claire even... How did they even get out of 1967 in the first place? Last I checked, 1967 Devon, that little village, was still just a piece of rock in the middle of space. Just like 1901 was. But oh, they fixed that off screen, right? Yep, fixed that off screen. Convenience. Ding. So they take her back to her present day time, 21st century. They drop her and Jericho off in Chile to be grabbed up by the Sontarans. And they're both put in these... Well, first... Oh, God, this scene. They have to convince the Sontarans to let them in. So... Apparently the doctor knows their weakness. Not the thing in the back of their necks that you smack and they collapse. No, not that. Chocolate, apparently, is the Sontaran weakness. The Sontaran they find is in a corner shop somewhere eating chocolate. And they bait him by saying they have the recipe to chocolate that they will freely give the Sontarans if the Sontarans allow their psychic operatives onto the base. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. You know, they had originally said that when they were going to do the Sontarans, this series, that they were going to treat them with respect and try to make them more serious than they had been before. You guys honestly thought that what RTD did with the Centaurans wasn't serious? I know it got a little iffy with Strax in the Moffat era, but that's because he'd been on Earth for so long and had, made human friends. So he was different. But I always thought RTD did the Centaurans very well. I never had a problem with them. I thought he actually kept them quite serious. Here, just all they do is tell stupid jokes. They look like morons. And now with the chocolate scene, it's even worse. It's like, what the fuck? Really? Like, okay. So Jericho and Claire get into the facility. They're strapped down to these chairs, and they are using her psychic abilities to try to predict the date of the Flux event. While that's going on, the other one of the Doctor, is on the Lupari ship with Carvanista and Belle. And she doesn't recognize Belle at first, but through a little bit of context, she realizes, oh, this is Vinder's Belle. Hey, what's up, girl? So she says that she's seen Vinder. Vinder's looking for her, blah, blah, blah. And they're trying to come up with a plan. She already knows about the base on Chile, so she says, well, I need to use that against them. So while my people are down there dealing with that, we're going to mess them up here. So they wind up getting captured, her and Carvanista both. Belle is off somewhere in another part of the ship. And the two of them get interrogated by the Grand Serpent. The Grand Serpent's left Earth. He's still working for the Centaurans, but the Centaurans are barely tolerating his presence. They're only allowing him to interrogate the Doctor just to shut him up. He wants to know about Kate, what she knows about Unit, blah, blah, blah. And of course, they have a little battle of wills, which doesn't really go anywhere. And I'm not sure how this actually happened, but another version of the Doctor shows up, freezes him with her sonic ding convenience, because the Sonic can't do that. Sonic can't do that. And they're attempting to escape. Like, she's got him froze, and then she disappears out again. The Centaurans show up, grab her, and put Carvanista back into the cage, and tell him that all of his people are dead. That when they took over the Lupari ships, they tossed all the Luparis out into the vacuum of space. They basically ejected them all out into the vacuum of space. They're all dead, except him. The look on his face when the Centaurans said this. I don't know a whole lot about the Carvanista character. None of the characters in this particular series have been well developed at all. But I did feel for him in that moment. Because being a fan of the Doctor and knowing the Doctor the way we do, we felt for him when the Time War was over and he lost his people. So you would think that the Doctor would have more of an understanding of this. More than anyone. She knows what it's like to lose your entire race. To be the only one left. That grief, that loss. But she says nothing. Just says nothing. They drag her off. Supposedly to torture her some more. And Carvanista howls with his grief. Fortunately, they have Belle, who's been hiding on the ship somewhere. She disables the Centaurans, frees the Doctor. They disable the Grand Serpent. And they're able to get Carbonista out. So now everybody's on the ship. The Doctor, Yaz, Dan, Carbonista, they're all on the ship. And Belle. While this is happening, Vinder and Diane are still in the passenger, and somehow out of nowhere, convenience again, ding, Diane magically knows how the passenger's inner workings function and how to disable a passenger and how to get free somehow. And also, if you remember in last episode, all the people that were in the passengers were taken out on the remains of that one planet that Vinder found himself on. You know, they were standing around those blue lights. Those were all the people that were in the passengers. They were all taken out of the passengers and glitterized, basically, to be used to fuel that psychic bridge to get Azure and Swarm to the division. But somehow, for some reason, they just left Diane there by herself because she's insignificant. They believed everybody was insignificant. So what makes her any different? And what was the point of even taking her in the first place? I know that it was supposed to be something they could hold over Dan, but this was never developed. It just took her out of nowhere. And magically, she knows how all this works. She uses Vinder's gun. There's this hole that she dug in the ground, and in the hole there's these robotic components or something, and something. If you shoot at it, it'll cause us to be released. Some shit that makes no fucking sense. So he shoots at it. They get out. And something happens. They wind up back inside, but somehow the TARDIS is able to find them, or they're outside. When they're outside long enough, he's able to send a transmission to the TARDIS to let the Doctor know that he needs help using that bracelet that the TARDIS gave, that the Doctor gave to him. She said if he ever needs any help, to just call. And they're out there just long enough to send a message, an SOS. The Doctor gets it. They're zapped back into the passenger. The TARDIS somehow is able to materialize inside the passenger. I don't fucking know. They get Vinder and Diane into the TARDIS. Vinder is finally reunited with Belle. Finds out that she's having a baby. Happy. Even though the characters are so underdeveloped, you really could care less. So now everybody is there. And this starts to turn into some really cheap version of Journey's End. Remember Journey's End, where all of the past companions were together? Jackie, Rose, Mickey, Martha, Donna, Jack. All of them were together tugging the Earth back. It was a big deal, huge deal episode, so amazingly done. They towed the Earth back home. The music swelled. Everybody was happy, clapping, hugging. It was wonderful. And it was the biggest undertaking the show had taken to date, on having all these past companions and 2 David Tennants. Oh yeah, by the way, the whole splitting Jodie into three Doctors thing. Yeah, Stolen Earth and Journey's End did it better. And with more and with an actual emotional payoff, and did it in a way that actually made fucking sense. They even managed to develop the secondary Doctor, Tent 2. Even though he didn't have that much on-screen time, the way that Russell wrote it, he actually turned out in the 20 minutes of screen time that he sort of had, ish, if you want to put together how much Tent 2 is actually on screen, maybe 30 minutes of screen time that he had, was a more developed character than the 3 Doctors combined. The 3 Jodies. 3 of her, and yet she's still a goddamn plank, unable to act, and pretty much just stands there explaining shit. Oh yeah, that was another problem with this episode, but it's been a long-standing problem this entire era. All Jodie does is stand there and explain shit. Exposition. You know, when you have exposition, after the exposition is generally supposed to come the action and the payoff. There is none. Chibnall's whole thing is just exposition after exposition after exposition. All these characters do is stand around and fucking talk. That's it. Nothing else. Just talk. That's all that Azure and Swarm do with the Doctor over there. That's all that the Sontarans do on their base with Jericho and Claire. That's all that the companions do in the fucking TARDIS with the Doctor. Nothing else. Oh my god, he ran out of ideas so quickly, he just stole everything he could from much better episodes. It's just sad. Just sad. Anyway, the Doctor comes up with some weird cockamamie plan. He splits them off into 3 different groups, and they're all sent out to do different things. One of them is supposed to disable, get on the Sontaran ships and disable their communications. The others are supposed to get on the Lupari ships and do something over there. Yeah, so they're all 3 of them are split off with different plans. Because apparently they figure out that the Sontaran plan was to put out a signal, a distress signal to the Dalek Empire and the Cyberman forces, bringing them to Earth, telling them that they wanted to enter into a mutually beneficial pact for survival, saying that we will protect you in our Lupari shields. Everyone come here, we will protect you. We will enter into mutually beneficial agreements in order to survive. And normally you wouldn't think that the Cybermen and the Daleks would go in for this, but I suppose with the Flux being as universe destroying as it is, they're probably at a point where they're that desperate that they just want to live. And they'll sort out all the other shit later, right? So the Daleks and the Cybermen do show up, and apparently the whole idea behind it was that since the Daleks and the Cybermen are composed of actual matter and the Flux is composed of antimatter, they're going to use the Daleks and the Cybermen, their entire galactic armies, to stop or slow down the Flux. Meanwhile, the Sontarans will be protected behind the Lupari shields. Once the Cybermen and the Daleks are destroyed and the Flux is gone, then the Sontarans will be the sole power in the universe, and they'll just take over everything. Yeah. So they have to stop this shit from happening. We finally figure out what the Grand Serpent's whole scheme was about. Apparently, what he wanted to do was, his whole reason for going into this pact with the Sontarans was to allow them to take over the Earth, and then he would, when the Earth was at its lowest and desperate for a savior, he would come out of nowhere and save them from the Sontaran threat and become, they would be so grateful to him for saving them, they would make him their king or some shit. Because apparently, okay, what happened with him and Vinder, as far as I can figure out, it's a little bit wonky, but as far as I can figure out, what happened with Vinder and the Grand Serpent was in the past. And apparently, when the Grand Serpent tried to do that shit by assassinating some of his own people, he was apparently found out. And he was exiled from his own planet. So he's been stuck on Earth for a really long time. He lost all that power that he had, and that's why he's been trying to get it back in increments by taking over units. He wants to rule Earth, basically, because he's lost all his power and stability from his home planet since he was exiled. So he's going to allow the Sontarans to take over the Earth, thinking that if he can save them, although I don't know how the fuck he's going to defeat the Sontarans on his own. I don't fucking know. But anyway, if he could defeat them, that the Earth will praise him like God and make him their king or something, and he'll get all that power back. Anyway, he figures out through his interrogation where Kate is, and tracks her down, kills the guy that's standing outside guarding, who I think was meant to be John Barrowman, but when Barrowman was written out, it was just some random dude. And yeah, he's tracking her. He's trying to track her down in the tunnels. So long story short, they come up with this idea that since they already know, well, the doctor manages to rescue Claire. They're well, Claire and Jericho are still stuck on one of the Centauran ships, but they have these transporter rings, and the doctor locks the TARDIS onto the transporter ring, so all they have to do is press it, and they can get out. Claire manages to get out and appears on the TARDIS, but Jericho, for some reason, throws his ring off and disappears. Or throws his ring off and is stuck there. I don't know why. All he had to do was press it, and he could have gone, but the Centaurans come in, and the Flux is right there, and they're like, we're going to kill you, you lowly human. And he's like, I don't think you're going to have the time. Wow, what a great adventure it was. And Jericho dies when the Flux eats the ship. You know, that character was the only character that was actually halfway decent in this series. And to kill him off for no other reason than for shock value is, yeah, again, as were most of the characters in this series, a waste. So, everybody is on board the TARDIS, and Claire explains to the doctor, you know, she elaborates more on the whole antimatter matter thing. And she says, well, no, not Claire. Diane, who magically knows all there is to know about passengers, apparently. Diane, whose only qualification is that she is a docent at a museum. Somehow she knows how passengers work. She says to the doctor, well, the passenger is made up completely of matter. You said yourself it could house millions of people. So there's all that space inside. So what if we send the passenger out there, and the passenger absorbs, with its matter, absorbs all the antimatter of the Flux? Wouldn't that work to stop it? She's like, oh yeah, of course. So she somehow gets the TARDIS to summon a passenger. I didn't realize the TARDIS had that particular ability. Okay. Convenience. Ding. Summons the passenger. The passenger absorbs the entirety of the Flux. And that's over. So the Flux is gone. Jericho's dead, but everybody else is alive. And oh, by the way, the rest of the universe is destroyed. Because they said more than once that the focal point of the Flux, the end point, was going to be at Earth, which means everything other than Earth has been destroyed. No acknowledgement of this whatsoever, by the way. Entire universe is destroyed. Everybody's, yay, we saved the Earth! Whee! Okay, great. But the rest of your galaxy's gone. Possibly the sun, which the Earth can't live without. And the rest of the universe. Gone. Wow. Nobody cares, right? Nobody cares. Because Chibnall doesn't care, so why should anybody else care? Where was I now? Okay, so they stopped the Flux, but they have one more thing that they gotta fix. Oh wait, actually, before this, the Doctor is still split. And they have decided to take her, Azure and Swarm, decided to take her to confront time, the corporeal version of time. And apparently it appears to you in a form that you will most easily be able to interact with. It appeals to your ego. So time appears first in the form of Swarm to appeal to Swarm's ego. And it tells them that they failed. They offered the Doctor to it as a sacrifice. Time tells them they failed, and then it dusts them, ascends them, whatever the hell. I'm not really sure. Don't know. But they're dead. Wow. A really terribly developed set of villains. It could have gone somewhere at some point, and they just wrote them off like they were nothing. Yeah, great. So then it takes the form of the doctor, only she's wearing the black coat instead of the white coat, and tells her that her time is ending soon. No regeneration, no future. God, Chibnall cannot write some shit for himself. Now he's stealing from fucking Planet of the Ood and Waters of Mars and Planet of the Dead. You know, the end of Tennant's Run, that prophecy, he will knock 4 times. Your time is ending soon. God damn. You just cannot write your own shit, can you? You have to steal from somebody else just to make yourself feel better. Like, what the fuck, dude? Just to make your shit sound better, so you gotta steal from Russell? Like, blatantly steal? The doctor has no idea what this person's talking about, what the fuck, blah, 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 blah. But she says, it's okay, I'm gonna let you go because your time is ending soon anyway, so chew on that one. And it disappears. It leaves the doctor. The doctor picks up the fob watch. Oh, by the way, the reason why she was able to get into her memories was because Azure opened it up and it took her inside the fob watch, and you could see the house, like the memory palace. That's not how the fucking fob watch works, Chibnall. Once the fob watch is fucking opened, all the memories go back into Time Lord, and the Time Lord becomes himself. So I don't know what the fuck you're doing with the fucking fob watch, but that's not how it fucking works. Because you're an idiot. A real fucking idiot. So before time leaves, it also allows the doctor to become stable again, puts her back together, and she reappears on the TARDIS, finally whole. So the universe is saved. Well, at least the flux is stopped, but the universe isn't really saved. Azure and Swarm are gone. Everybody's back where they're supposed to be. Carvanista and Bell and Vinder go off to have adventures. I don't know what the fuck where, because the whole universe is dead. So I don't know what the fuck they're gonna go look for or do. Ain't nothing to go look for and do. There is a short scene, a very interesting short scene between Carvanista and the doctor. She was trying to get Carvanista to tell her about her past. She knew that they had worked together in Division. But Carvanista said he couldn't talk to her about it because they put some sort of injection in his brain. That it was like a death trap, that if he was to say anything to her about her past, that it would explode in his brain and he would die. All we know is that they were, at one point, it's hinted that he was her companion, that they were very close. Very, very close. Not that kind of close. Just very close. But nothing more than that. I'm assuming that in the specials, this will be expanded upon. So they go off, God knows where, because the universe doesn't exist anymore. Not that they acknowledge this fact. She returns Dan and Diane to their present time, and Claire. Her and Yaz go off and do their thing. Oh, and she says her goodbyes to Kate, and that's pretty much the end of that. Very weird scene at the end. It basically comes full circle, and Dan is back at the museum in Liverpool telling them about Williamson and his tunnels. And I thought maybe, oh wow, because of all his experiences in the past, maybe they finally gave him a job as a docent. This is what he wanted, right? I thought for sure, oh, this is full circle for Dan. He's finally got a good job. He can feel proud of himself. Great. No. Still doesn't work for them. Still doing the same shit that he did before, and Diane is still chastising him for it. Dan, what are you doing here? Blah, blah, blah. He wants to still take her out for a drink. He swears, I wasn't late, I promise. You already know. It's already been explained to you. I didn't do it. I was kidnapped by that space dog. Which she understands, but still. Sorry, Dan. I don't want to deal with any of this shit, Dan. Please go away, Dan. What the ever-loving fuck? Dan doesn't deserve this mess. It wasn't his fault that any of this happened to him. He got caught up in some stupid space shit. Why does Diane do this out of nowhere? Who knows? But supposedly to give Dan the excuse to continue traveling with the doctor, because we still need him there for the specials, so we have to give him an excuse to want to leave. Oh, by the way, did he ever make his house big again? this house ever go back to where it's supposed to be? They never quite said that. Anyway, so he's just walking away all sad, and the Doctor and Yaz appear in the TARDIS. Hey, Dan, want to come travel? Let's go. Let's have some fun, Dan. Yeah, sure. So that's where it ends. He goes off to travel with the Doctor, and we get a next time trailer. The Doctor has the fob watch, and she's tempted to open it, but she doesn't want to do it. So she opens up something. She takes this round globe off the TARDIS console, and she drops the fob watch down into the bowels of the console, and she says to the TARDIS, "Do not let me open this thing or find it unless I ask you." We all know that this is going to come up some point in the specials. It has to. Chibnall has written himself into a fucking corner. He swore he was going to finish the season by tying this shit up with a nice little bow and getting all the answers out there, and he still hasn't. It's like he has no fucking courage or fortitude anywhere in his fucking body. He couldn't develop any of the characters. There was no payoff for any of them. The Grand Serpent. I almost forgot. With the Grand Serpent, he was the last thing that they had to take care of. They go back into the tunnels and find him still searching for Kate. And they hold him at gunpoint. Vinder especially. This is kind of a full circle thing for Vinder, considering this guy pretty much destroyed his life. And they shuttle him out one of the doors, which lands him on a piece of rock asteroid in the middle of space. How he is able to breathe on that piece of rock, I have no fucking clue, but he's stuck out there exiled by himself. Is he going to come back in the specials? Don't know. Convenience. Ding. So, yeah. Apparently Chibnall does not have the courage to answer his own questions about the Timeless Child story. He doesn't have the courage to decide whether or not he wants the Doctor and Yaz to get together, even though they really shouldn't. But he doesn't seem to have the courage to go forward with anything. He baits and baits and baits, and then, no, not yet. I have seen on Twitter, even the diehard Jodie fans who are fans of this era are really losing their patience with Chibnall's bullshit. They just want this shit to be over. They want the answers out there. They want him to stop playing around and pulling back and actually just go through with it already. He doesn't have a whole lot of time left. I actually predicted this in my last review. I had said that I believe that the Flux storyline will be tied up at the end of the season, but they're not going to tie up the whole Division Timeless Child thing yet. That's probably going to be relegated to all the specials. So it looks like that's where it's going. Once again, the New Year's special has to do with Daleks. Got to have that customary yearly Dalek episode to satisfy the Terry Nation estate, so they can get their royalties and you'd be allowed to use the Daleks for another year. Apparently this is like the third part of the Dalek trilogy when it comes to New Year's episodes. We had Resolution of the Daleks, then Revolution of the Daleks, now Eve of the Daleks, whatever. I guess it's supposed to be tied up in this last one. It's some sort of Groundhog Day thing where they keep repeating the same day over and over. And yeah, it looks really ridiculous. But I suppose we will find out more in the coming weeks. That will be New Year's Day. We already know that. And the review for that will be forthcoming. And then, of course, after that, we have Easter special, the Centenary in October, and then another New Year special, which I assume she will regenerate. I'm not sure if she's regenerating in the Centenary or if she's regenerating in the New Year's one. Either way, all the episodes in her run are done. The regeneration sequence has already been filmed. She's done. So we just have one more year of specials to get through, and then hopefully smooth sailing from there. All right, well, that is my review for Series 13, Episode 6, The Vanquishers. I will say it's pretty much a nothing burger, basically, because no payoffs, no questions answered. Basically just a lot of exposition, a lot of talking, a lot of bad acting, and horrible writing and attempts to steal for much better episodes. I feel like this whole series was a waste. This whole era was a waste. If I had to rate it, I really can't give it a rating because it didn't do anything. Like, it didn't answer anything, didn't solve anything. It was nothing. Nothing burger, 0. 0 out of 10. Now, as for the series as a whole, with the exception of episode 2 and bits of episode 4, I would have to say, as a whole, it's like, I don't know, a 3 or 4 out of 10. And that's being generous. Extremely generous. I could go lower. All right, guys. Well, that is my review. I got some things to do, so I got to head off. But later on this week, I know Noel is doing another review panel for this episode, so I'm going to try to get myself on that one. And I will see you guys soon. So look for further reviews for box sets and around the world here coming up as soon as they drop. All right, guys. Peace out.
Good night.